What's up guys? It's been a while since Marvel Rivals have come out, and I think it's time we go back to basics because I'm seeing a lot of people play tank and sometimes we all need a little bit of refresher. So here is a full breakdown of what it means to play a Vanguard. It is not a specific character specific guide. If you want that, you can check out my Thor guide earlier on my channel. This is a overall role guide, just a breakdown of the basics, the bread and butter, the things that you need to. But getting into it, the first thing that we need to establish is what a tank is, what its role is, how you make the most of it, and the different types of tanks out there. So the main point of a tank is very simply to create space. You're going to hear that a lot today, but what that is very simply is that you have a higher HP pool for a reason. You are going to use that to create space, and that is done in one of three ways, right? You've got elims, which is very simple. That's available to every single role, and it changes a fight from a 6v6 to a 5v6, right? Getting a pick. Next is displacement. That one is also available in a lot of the roles as well. Think of Thor's push, Emma's grab, Angela's grab. Essentially, you are breaking up the enemy team to ruin their pressure and ruin their space and either divert them into yours, displace the team, and just break up the overall routine that they have. And then lastly, and the most importantly, this is going to be pressure. And pressure is very simply forcing the enemy team to put their focus on you, either by using resources, peeling, or even just being the focal point of damage. This can be done very simply by walking up to the enemy, diving their backline. It can be taken at off angle, so some of the damage is taken away from the main tank and the rest of the team. You want to think of Thor, you want to think of, well, pretty much all tanks can do it, in all fairness. It's very simply just absorbing pressure as well, so that your team has a better chance of getting away with either taking up the space, filling the space, or maintaining the spaces. You have the higher H pool for one very simple reason: to maintain and apply pressure with the lowest risk of consequence versus other teammates, right? You're going to take more damage than it would to kill support or a DPS, but you can stay in that position. Now that we've established what the tank does, the next is the different types of tanks that do it. So you have your three types. You've got main tank, off tanks, dive tanks. I specifically like to make it in three. You could do it in two, but I do feel like there's three very distinct roles. Your main tank is very simple. You are going to be the front line. You're going to always be at the front. You're going to take the main channel, which is usually the largest area, and you're simply going to have abilities that allow you to absorb a lot of damage. Think of Doctor Strange shield, Magneto's shield, the bubble, Emma's shield, the damage reduction with Emma's diamond form. Your role is very simple. Allow the team to follow behind you. You are going to be creating the space, pushing in. You thrive when there's multiple people in front of you. Your abilities come with their most impact and most usage and most value for points or value for ult charge when there's multiple people in front of you. You guys want to be at the front line of the team, and you can do usually quite a bit of burst damage. Next, you have off tanks. So off tanks, you want to think of Thor. You want to think of Thing. You want to think of Rogue. Those kind of characters where you usually have a damage absorption technique, which is kind of selfish, like it's made just for you. You have a bit of mobility, and you can probably do a mixture of getting in and out with range and have a decent HP pool. You also probably have an ability that allows you to look after yourself, right? That's the main thing. That could be Thor's dash, that could be the bonus health he gets, all that kind of stuff. That could be Rogue's shield, Rogue's mobility to get in and out around corners, but also constantly maintain the front line. Your job as an off tank is really simple. You are going to take off angles to keep up pressure, force out resources, but you're also going to manage the other off angles as well. You don't have no mobility, but you don't have all the mobility in the world. So you're going to maintain it, understand it, and jump on it if needed. And then lastly, you have dive tanks. Those ones are really simple. Think of Venom, think of Angela, and then who else is a dive tank? But yeah, you get my point, right? Those are really simple. You have high mobility. You usually have a selfish kind of damage reduction or shield. Think of Venom's HP buff or the additional health. Think of Cap's shield, Angela's shield. You've also got Hulk's bubble as well, which can be useful, but it's usually to keep yourself alive. And those are very simple. You are meant to get in, take some focus, take some damage, get out. A lot of the time I see, this is a bit off topic, a lot of the time I see dive tanks being the first one in the fight, every single time. I get in like the first fight, maybe you want to jump in, just get a little bit of ult charge, you know, let them know you're there early kind of thing, get a little bit in their boots. But really and truly, you should be the second person to engage into a fight, right? The main site should always start with the main tank if there is one, or the off tanker even before you. And then while some of the focus is on those two, then you jump in the back line, then you break them up, you displace them, you confuse the enemy, right? Suddenly their front line's not getting any heals, they have to walk backwards, or they have to peel, allowing your team to move up going forward. If you are first to jump into the back line with a dive tank, you are essentially putting yourself in a 1v6 scenario, and even with Venom's extra health and bonus health that he has, he is going to melt. He's going to be melted and absolutely eviscerated because you've got 6 people focusing on you for damage. If you are the second person to engage in the fight, well then there's less people focused on you because they've still got to worry about what's up front, right? Just remember that. Oftentimes I always see you can't 1v6. This game is not designed for you to win a 1v6, even with the best ults in the game, right? That's not how it's happening, so bear that in mind. Now, just because each tank has a role that they're designed for does not mean that they solely have to be played in that role, right? Especially with the new team ups, a lot of the time you can do different things at different times. Venom can take an off angle with the ult charge, right? You don't have to dive into the back line every time. Hulk can play front line with the other teammates. Magneto can be an off tank and take a flank, right? They don't do it, but context matters more than anything else, and that's what is going to determine what you play in that scenario. So that's what tanks are, right? You have what their role is, what different types of tanks do. Now, how do you actually fight with a tank? How do you actually play the game? And in order to do that correctly, what you need to do as an individual is understand that you need to fill a certain role that your team needs you to be. As a tank, the first thing you should do is understand the abilities of everyone on your team, and then when you find out who the other team is, you understand their abilities as well. That helps you decide who to pick and how to play that game as well. It's okay to switch, and oftentimes if you want to carry as tank, you will have to switch according to the context. So let's just run through a couple examples of what scenarios you might come across and who you need to play and why you need to play them. So first of all, you're playing in any game mode, wherever it is, and your enemy team is full of long-range attacks. So think of your pokers, think of Punisher, Bucky, Hela, Phoenix, all that kind of stuff. Now, playing an off-tank does help in that scenario, right? Because you can divert some of the pressure there. But what you really want to be doing is playing a main tank. Someone who can walk forward, absorb as much of that damage as possible, and allow your team to follow in. As an off-tank, like I said before, you don't usually have damage reduction abilities that apply to everyone else. You don't have a shield that blocks more than one person. So yes, you can potentially take an off angle, but most likely you're just going to be forced back to go into main channel, forcing your DPS or your heals to not be able to push forward and put their resources into you. You want to be playing a main tank. Now, you can also get away with having a main tank on the team and then having a diver, because not everyone is going to be sitting in the same spot, otherwise no one will go. So their team might be split up about. You can be the main tank absorbing a lot of damage, and then your diver can go and apply pressure to those relevant people. Now let's say they have a team full of divers. Well, as a main tank, you're not really going to be of much benefit. There's no one making use of the fact that you have a massive shield, right? You don't have the mobility to go and peel as quick and still apply pressure to the front line. So you probably want to pick someone like a dive or an off tank as well, right? Main tanks don't really hold true. Off tanks, you can still get out and about. Divers, you can go and apply pressure to the people diving your team and then eventually dive back. However, like I said, context matters. So if you do have a team who are playing divers against you, but you have anti-dive on your heels, you can stay as a main tank, and what you do in that case is you play very selfishly. When they come and dive your backline, you don't have to peel in that scenario because you know your team can take care of it. You can stay as your main tank and just start walking forward upon the enemy team and the enemy dives. Remember, your shields don't just block damage, it also blocks incoming healing as well. So if a Venom dives to jump your backline and your backline is protected by a Bucky and an Amor and whoever else is there, well then put up your Doctor Strange shield, make sure that Venom doesn't get any heals, and start walking forward, start applying the pressure. Now, understandably, oftentimes there's times where you've done that, your whole team turned back. Just bear that in mind as well. And lastly, let's say you're going up against a team where they're not necessarily sticking together, but they are taking a load of off angles. You can still play main tank and play the way that I mentioned, which is you can just go and apply pressure to the back line. You can just 1v1 the front line. What you can most likely want to do is stick to the off tanks. right? Stick to the off tanks where you have the ability to apply pressure from the front line. You're diverting resources towards yourself so that your team can move up, and you're able to apply pressure to those off angles as well. That's the main thing. Again, each of these will require context, but those are the basics of how you should do it. So how do you carry these roles? Well, the way to carry in these roles is to understand the most important thing that I mentioned before is pressure and how you can apply pressure. So first of all, what is pressure? It's very simply putting yourself in a position to force a reaction. So for example, if there is a enemy Hela who's taken a high off angle, right? You are going to put yourself in the position by engaging that off angle. You can do that with Thor jumping up there, Venom diving up there, Angela flying over there, even Doctor Strange using his leap to take that off angle as well. You are going to engage him and they are going to retreat. You engaging is applying the pressure, they retreating is the reaction. Another example would be if you are walking up with a main tank and you just start walking past the enemy tanks. Well, very simply, that's applying pressure by walking up. The enemy team then have to decide either to turn around and fly pressure you. They're going to start potentially putting pressure on your backline as well, or the healers are going to have to use up all their resources and try and think. That is forcing a reaction. Now, just because you are applying pressure doesn't mean that you are doing it correctly. Like I said, context matters. That's why we give these examples. If you are going against two shield tanks and you just start walking past them, if they put up their shields, you're not going to be getting any heals. If you are going against off-angle tanks and you're walking past them, well, they have the power to displace you as well. So it's important to understand when to walk up, how to walk up, all that kind of stuff. I know it sounds complicated, but really and truly, you've seen these scenarios in every game you play, right? If you're walking past a Doctor Strange, be aware that the Doctor Strange might just put up their shield and prevent your heals. Now, does everyone do that? Not exactly, because if you're walking up, most likely the rest of your team is walking up. But you also putting up your shield as you walked up stop the enemy Strange. So that's kind of how pressure works. In order to apply pressure correctly, you need to have a good understanding of your own abilities. You also have a good understanding of the enemy's abilities. If you know that, for example, if we go back to the example of the Hela, if the Hela used her ability to fly to get up there, well, then you know she has no escape ability. So you applying pressure at the right time with the right jump and the right amount of damage can make a massive difference. The end of the game is applying pressure is there to force a reaction. However, you want the reaction to go in your favor. Get in a pick, forcing out a resource. If you dive an enemy cloak and she uses her fade, now she no longer has fade. Right? Yes, she has another immortal ability with her frozen form, but she's the most broken character in the game. If Luna uses her freeze or her charm on you and it doesn't work and you've still got the freedom to apply pressure, well, now you know you can win that fight with Luna. Right? It is very simple. If Thor pushes you in and he's pushed you in the wrong path, well, then you can walk in front, block his health and let your team do the damage. As a tank, your job is to apply pressure and enable your team to apply pressure also. Now, when it comes to actually starting a fight and winning a fight, you kind of need to understand what's called neutral. Neutral is probably best described in like a fighting game where it's just before you guys engage with each other. This can be walking up to the middle point and the capture point. This could be the moment just before the team regroup and come back at you. You need to understand your setup. In that moment, I want you to pick your target. Pick your target, right? This is for any character that you're playing. Pick your target. Your target might change as the fight goes on, but as the fight is starting, you should have a target in mind. You should know what you're doing before you get in there. If you know there's a Doctor Strange who's going to walk up on you and you're Thor, well, then very simply, you take the angle which allows you to displace Thor behind the rest of the team, or to a point where he can't get heals, and bam, Doctor Strange is out the fight. He has to go back and reset. Potentially, the enemy team have to go back and reset as well because they lost their main focus. Same thing applies to Mag, right? You've also got divers. So if you see that the enemy team is lagging behind, you want to dive the back line, get a couple picks in, force the tanks to either revert because they notice they're not getting heals, if they notice they're not getting heals, and then you can go back and and do it all again. That is very simply how to start a fight. Now, when it comes to winning a fight, when it comes to carrying in a fight, it's also very simple to understand who your enemy is targeting as well. If there is a Hela taken off angle or a Phoenix taken off angle, and you as a main tank have to still manage the front line, it's a very high chance that your shield isn't going to be blocking the damage that's needed to be blocked. So if there is, let's think about the Wakanda one, the convoy map, right? That first point when you're on attack, you've got the building on the right, you've got the main area on the mid or on the bottom, and then you've got the building on the left. If your enemy tanks are in the middle and there is a Hela off the right angle, right? that's the person that you need to be putting your shield for. That's the person who's going to be attacking your backline. So when you're walking forward, focus on the healer, right? Focus on the person that's avoiding or trying to avoid the main thing that you're designed to block, the damage. If there is no healer and they're all there, then just start walking up on the enemy team, right? I'm not saying walk away from your team, but just be aware of where your shield is going and who you are blocking that damage for. Understanding who's putting pressure on your team will help you understand how to block it, how to displace them, how to apply pressure to them, and how to force them a reaction that they want. Because if they're not being able to do any damage, they're not going to stay there. They will take another angle, or they'll look desperate and they'll try to do something else, and then that allows your team to capture on them. It's also important to understand momentum as well. If you get a pick and you are a tank, please do not reset. Keep going forward, fill the space, walk forward, make more space, right? Allow the rest of your team to go forward. There is a chance that some of your team are going to hang out on point, especially on the push points, right? That is understandable. You can still create the space and then come back and then reset again. But if you are doing a capture point and one of your team gets killed and you as a tank start walking backwards, unless you are on 1 HP or 100 HP and one tap is going to take you out, there is no reason for you to walk back. Keep applying that pressure. You don't have to get a pick. You don't have to get a pick in order to get pressure, right? Just your existence, just your presence being there. Like I said, tanks do have the ability to do a serious amount of damage. So, especially with Doctor Strange, for example. So Doctor Strange has serious burst damage potential. So, you know that you can take them out. Thor, the same. Venom, the same. Magneto, the same. They all have high damage potential combos that allow them to get really big bursts of damage, and that alone allows you to apply pressure. That's the main thing. So I've done a lot of talking. Like I said, this was just a breakdown on the actual role of Vanguard. It is a pretty simple role to understand. It's not that complicated in terms of the actual role. Where it's complicated is in practice, in scenarios, in terms of understanding the enemy team, so on and so forth. If you want, you can always ask, put in the comments if there's a specific character that you want to see a breakdown on. I do have a Thor guide, a full comprehensive breakdown of Thor. You can go and watch that as well. Or if you just have any scenarios that you're unsure about, like what do I do in that scenario, ask away. I'm more than happy to break it down with you as well. Like I said, context matters more in this than anything else, especially with a tank, a Vanguard. You need to understand what's actually happening in the game in order to do that, and the best way is just examples, trial and error, so on and so forth. But here are a few characters that I feel like everyone should learn in order to get the best feeler tap, and then we're just going to hop into some tips that will help you out in your normal day-to-day games. First of all, you should learn 3 tanks, and they're very simple: Doctor Strange, Venom, and Thor. Doctor Strange, because he excels at tank. His main role is to be a main tank, but he also has extremely high damage potential and one of the best ults in the game, right? He can do so much. He can kill through ults, so on and so forth, right? He has range, not massive. He has melee, great. He has burst damage, great. You also want to learn Venom. Venom right now is probably one of the most influential tanks in the game. If there is a good Venom on your team and your team can't handle him, right, he is solely going to win the game. They are the sole person that's going to win the game. The Phoenix team up is crazy. His mobility is insane. He has extremely selfish playstyles as well, so you can just jump in, jump out, and survive and go on. So yeah, Venom. And then lastly, Thor. Thor is slightly different. Thor is a little bit more complicated, but the reason I say Thor is because Thor can do it all. He can apply pressure with the front line, he can dive the back line, he can handle the off angles. It's a very high health pool if you play him correctly, and he's got range, extremely high damage, and can win every one-on-one. I secretly think he's an underrated tank, even though there's a lot more people playing him than before. Now let's jump onto the tips. Simple tips with main tanks. We're going to break it down: tips for main tanks, off tanks, and dive tanks. With main tanks, never put up your shield unless you are doing it for a specific reason. For example, there should be no reason why you have a shield next to a corner where you're not receiving any damage. If you're just standing there with your shield, you're wasting your shield. It provides no value. When you engage in the fight, you have less of an overall HP than you have. Think of the shield as extra HP rather than a separate ability. Yes, it regains, but it does break and it's not instant. So always use your shield with any sort of movement, either walking up, walking backwards, or allowing your team to follow you in. Right, especially with Doctor Strange, you only want to put that stuff up when needed. You'll have a high HP pool for a reason. Main tanks should also be able to test the other tank as well. So when you're going up against your enemy teams, you are going to be fighting them one-on-one, right? However, every now and then you can sneak forward, put a little bit of pressure on, walk backwards, force the team to think about that decision and then react on it accordingly so. And of course, if you are playing a main tank with a diver of any team, whether it's a DPS or another tank, when they are diving, put pressure, right? Don't allow the whole team to turn around and take on your diver. Put pressure, walk up, apply pressure to the front line. They may not be getting resources at the moment, you can get a pick. And don't be afraid to focus on breaking in shields. Now with off tanks, a tip for off tanks is really simple. Manage the off angles from the DPS. That is going to be a big thing. Divers are mainly going to be focused on the back line. Yes, they can go to get the off angles, but you also can do that. You have a lot of the movement abilities to do that as well. And try and isolate your teammates. Try and isolate your enemies as an off tank. Right, with Rogue, you'll excel at a one-on-one with Rogue every single time. With Angela, you have great ability to displace the other team, right? With Thor, again, displacement. Take on these one-on-ones. That's where you're going to be specializing. However, a lot of the time you don't have the mobility to be chasing a diver. So if there is a diver, I'm jumping in on your backline, and I'm talking about a diver DPS like a Psylocke, like a Black Panther. Yes, you can help. You are there to just assist. You're not going to be the person who counters them. Do remember that. And then lastly, with dive tanks, don't be the first in. Please don't be the first in. It's okay to like the first fight to jump in straight away. Don't be the first one in. Be the second or third one in. And please looking out for these off angles as well. You have the best ability to take them down, which is extremely high mobility. And remember, you don't have to get picks in order to have an effect, right? Oftentimes and very simply, you can win a fight, you can win a whole game without ever getting a pick. It's not ideal, it's naturally not going to happen, but really and truly, if the enemy team aren't allowed to progress, you win, right? And if they can't progress because every time they jump forward you get a backline, that's how it works, right? That's why Spider-Mans are so annoying, because everyone's keeping an eye out for the Spider-Man all the time, but if you're always the first one in and there's 6 of you, then you're not worried about him, right? Just get in, get out, let the frontline pressure jump on you as well. That tip is for divers in general. And the most important tip, which goes for all of these roles here, and I'm going to be honest, a lot of you are going to hate this, play support. Play the support role. You have Emperor's Eye from Kuroko no Basket, right? You can see it all. You can see who's not on the front line, who's diving the back line, where your enemy team is. You have a good understanding of what your team is doing at the moment, and you can take that experience into other games, learn it, practice it, have awareness of it, and having that awareness is simply going to make the biggest difference in you understanding where your pressure is coming from, how to apply pressure, what type of pressure your enemy is putting on your team as well. It makes the world of difference just having that experience. But yeah, overall, that's the whole video. I hope this helps you guys out in some form or fashion. Like I said, if there is a specific character guide that you'd like to see broken down, drop it in the comments below. Let me know who you want to learn as well. Again, check out my Thor guide here. And yeah, I'll catch you guys for the next one. Safe.